Today I want to share a prison story with you guys that I have not shared with you before, and one that I've never really wanted to share this story at all. You know, it's crazy to think that for the 2.5 years that I've been doing After Prison Show, I've told you so much of what it's like to be locked up, to come home, and all of the struggles that you're going to deal with in between. And I've done that in a variety of different ways, whether it's through the prison stories, how-tos, tutorials, tattooing, cooking, vlogs, interviews. We've really used a variety of content to be able to showcase exactly what serving time in prison is like and what it's like to try to come home and transition afterwards. And to think, with as long as I've been creating videos for this channel, there are still stories yet that have been told here. And you know, that's for a variety of reasons as well. Whether these were stories that I had forgotten about and have since remembered or have been reminded of, or like in this case with this story that I'm about to share with you, maybe it's a story that I never really wanted to talk about. Maybe it was embarrassing, maybe it was really regretful, maybe it was stupid and dumb and just something that took me a long time to build up the courage to finally be able to share with you. And again, I can't emphasize enough that this story is exactly like that, one that I had never wanted to share before. And what this story is about this tattoo right here. And you know, this tattoo right here is really going to take care of a few birds with one stone, so to speak. A lot of times people ask me about my tattoos. Do a video explaining all of your tattoos and what they mean. Well, the reason I've never really done a video like that is because a lot of my tattoos don't really have any meaning. The crazy thing to think is that when you're serving time, getting tattooed is just something to do to pass the time. And sometimes you might just see a cool picture and be like, you know, that would be a cool tattoo to get, like most of my tattoos. Or in other cases, a lot of my tattoos are cover-ups of either females' names or other trash tattoos. But this tattoo right here is about the only tattoo that I've got on me besides what's etched across my chest, never settle for less, that actually has any real meaning at all. But the damnedest thing to admit about this tattoo is this is a prison tattoo that I absolutely regret and has caused me a lot of problems since getting it. So it goes without saying that this story will also address another question that I'm asked about a lot as well, and that is, you know, what do you regret most from being in prison? Well, I can certainly assure you that this tattoo right here is one of my biggest regrets ever. And you know, I already know by sharing this story with you, there's going to be a ton of crazy comments. I just hope that I'm able to explain this in the best possible way. I'm going to tell you the absolute truth about this. And I hope some way that you can understand, as crazy as all of this is about to sound. So where do I even begin? You know, a long time ago, I told you guys a prison story about getting jumped inside of prison, getting jumped in jail. I can't remember the title of this video, but what this story was about, in case you missed this, was basically I was in this jail that was absolutely out of control. And to be a white dude in this jail, you were guaranteed to have problems. In fact, as soon as I got into the cell block at this jail, I saw it every single day. Dudes were getting jumped, they were fighting, they were getting things stolen from them, they were getting extorted. This was a tough place to have to serve time at, and here I was finding myself knee-deep in this situation of absolute chaos. This was back in like 2006 or 2007. And during this time, I had absolutely no money whatsoever, and I was doing a lot of pluck work tattoos, a pencil, a staple, and some pencil graphite ink. That was how I was able to acquire what little zoom zooms and wham whams I would have while serving time in this absolute hell on earth type of environment. And it was shortly after I had done some tattoo work. I had gotten paid for this tattoo work. It wasn't much at all. I remember I had like 2 boxes of peanut butter wafer bars and maybe a few other items. It was shortly after I'd gotten paid with these items that these dudes came up in my cell and they tried to take everything that I had. And when they told me they were there to take everything that I had, I looked at these dudes and told them, you're not taking nothing from me. And you know, no matter how big and bad or tough I tried to appear to be, I was absolutely scared to death. Those feelings of terror and frightfulness, not knowing what was about to happen, wouldn't last long at all, because it was right after I said, you're not taking anything from me. These dudes then began to beat me up and jump me, and there was nothing I could do. I was outnumbered. It was like 3 against 1. You're not going to win in that situation. And when it was all said and done, and for whatever reason, I don't even know if it was because I attempted to put up some type of a fight, I can't honestly explain why, but when it was all said and done and I was beaten and bloodied, I still had those few commissary items I had just gotten paid with for doing the tattoo work that I had done. Well, after I had gotten jumped and somehow miraculously was able to hold on to those few zoom zooms and wham whams that I did have, it wasn't shortly thereafter that this white dude came into my cell, a guy that I knew from the free world, a guy by the name of Toby, somebody that I was pretty cool with inside of this housing unit. And he sat there and he asked me if I was okay, and I told him I was. I was trying to clean myself up. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was pretty shook up by this entire experience. I mean, I've had my ass kicked more times than I could even probably count, but it's only been a very few times that I've ever actually been jumped in an effort to try to take everything that I have. So it's hard to explain what I was really feeling. Maybe it was adrenaline. That's probably mostly what it was. But this guy Toby would come and check on me, asking if I was okay. And then I can't remember how long it would actually be, whether it would be a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days, hell, maybe a week. I can't honestly remember, but me and Toby would end up in the cell again, having another conversation. Toby also being another pick and poke, pluck work tattoo artist inside of this housing unit. He would then say to me, "Hey, Joe, you know, it was really good that you tried to stand up for yourself in that situation, even though you got beat up. And because of that, you should let me put this little tattoo on you." He was then showing me this little stencil of this tattoo that I had absolutely no idea what this tattoo represented or what it was at all. And as I'm looking at this piece of paper, which would actually end up being this tattoo right here, I'm asking him what it is and what it means. And Toby then tells me it stands for something called white trash. And what it represents is the fact that you are not willing to lay down to anyone, and that you ain't no chump or no punk, and you're gonna stand up for yourself. And as I'm holding this piece of paper in my hand, and as he's explaining to me what this tattoo represents, you know, I'm not even questioning to myself if this is any type of a gang marking or if white trash is even a gang at all. But I remember vividly what I was thinking as he's telling me about this, and as I'm contemplating whether or not I'm even gonna get this tattoo. I'm thinking to myself, I'm pissed off, and yeah, damn right, I will stand up for myself even if I get beat up. I don't care. Maybe I'm just that damn crazy. But you know, if hindsight is 20/20, as the saying says, you know, I probably really should have been questioning what exactly this white trash tattoo and white trash thing really was. But I wasn't doing any of that. In fact, I was just like, you know what? Damn right I'm gonna get that tattoo. Yeah, go ahead and put it on me right now. Toby had that tattoo. There were a couple of other guys in the housing unit who had that tattoo, some of which were still getting beat up and extorted. But for whatever reason, maybe I was thinking, you know what? It ain't gonna be me. It ain't gonna be me. And I hope if they see this tattoo, they're gonna realize I will stand up. Win or mostly probably lose. And you know, here's another bird that we're gonna handle with this one story stone. You know, people have asked me all the time, Joe, were you ever approached by a gang while locked up? Did you ever join a gang? Did you ever run with a gang? And I always answer that question, no. And I don't want you to think that I'm sitting here lying to you, telling you, no, I wasn't a part of a gang. Because in my mind, when I first got this tattoo, I had no idea what any of this was really about. However, I would soon learn. I end up getting this tattoo right here that represents white trash. That's a WT. And I have no idea what I'm really getting myself into at all. I end up getting released from this jail a few months later, and I wouldn't last out in the free world, but for probably a few more months before getting locked up again to then go to prison for the very first time. And it was during the very first time that I went to prison where I would serve 1.5 years for a probation violation. And I wouldn't hear anything about this tattoo at all until I would get to the receiving unit, Mecklenburg, the very first prison that I would ever get to. And it was when I got to this place, Mecklenburg, for the very first time. This place was probably one of the most laid-back prisons that I could have ever experienced. During this time, I would end up there again, and it would be a completely different story. But I remember thinking to myself, and this is absolutely crazy to admit, I've admitted this before, but I remember that this place was so just not bad. I know that sounds horrible to say, but I remember saying out loud to some guys that I was walking around with, and this is so stupid to even say this, but I said, you know, if I'd have known prison was this sweet, I'd have been here a long time ago. But it was during this time when I was at this prison that I thought was so sweet, where this tattoo would come into play again. And it was while I was on the rec yard one day walking around with a group of people, none of these dudes being gang members at all, that this one big white dude came walking up to me saying, "Hey you, I see you've got this tattoo right here." He said, "You see this? I've got the same tattoo as well." And as soon as this guy started saying this to me, it automatically began to register in my brain, oh my God. And maybe this was like for the first time that I was even thinking about this. I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but this is the absolute truth. Because again, when I got that tattoo in the jail a year or two prior, nothing else really popped off for me while I was in that jail for those few months. So I wouldn't have any other reason to think about this until I'm standing on this rec yard with this big dude standing right there in my face saying, I've got that same exact tattoo, that it's beginning to register in my head, that this is a gang. And this dude thinks that I'm a part of this gang and I don't know the first thing about what the hell this on my wrist means or represents at all. And yeah, I don't know anything more than what this guy Toby who tattooed this on me told me. It stands for white trash, and that just means that you're a white dude who's gonna stand up for yours and you ain't no punk. Okay. And again, I probably really should have questioned, is this a gang? It damn sure sounds like it's a gang, but for whatever reason, I wasn't thinking like that or thinking clearly at all when I first got this. But with this big dude right there in my face trying to show me the matching tattoo that he has as well, I immediately tell this dude, hey, look, dude, I don't even know what this is. I just got this while I was in the jail and I don't want no parts of nothing. This guy tells me, he says, hey man, I want to give you some knowledge on what you have right there. And I said, dude, I don't want no knowledge. I don't want no parts of none of this. Now, let me say something real quick. Mind you, had this been any sort of a real deal gang, me saying what I was saying right then, like, I don't know anything about this, which I truly and really didn't, and also saying, and I don't want no parts of this, and I don't want no knowledge, you can't tell me nothing. Had this been any sort of a real deal organization, I would have been beat up and jumped immediately right then and there. But you know what? That didn't happen. This dude just said to me, okay, turned around and walked away. And when that happened, I was at least smart enough to realize, you know what? Whatever I've got on my arm, this is some weak shit right here. Because if this was anything real, that wouldn't even have been allowed to go down the way that it did. And you know what? I'm absolutely grateful. I am absolutely so fortunate that this wasn't anything all that real inside of the jail or prison. Now, let me say this as well. This is only here in the state of Virginia. I don't know if this has any type of bearing anywhere else in the world, in the country, and if it does, I truly apologize for these things that I'm saying, but this right here, this ain't me at all. Well, from that situation right there on the rec yard where the big dude came up to me asking me about this, I wouldn't hear anything else about this for the rest of the time that I was locked up for that year and a half. Another situation where it was just a one and done. I would get released and I would last out in the free world for 10 months before I would end up getting locked up for the 7 years that I served prior to this time right here, where I've been released now for almost 3 years. And it was this last time during these 7 years where I would really truly find out just how much I would come to regret this tattoo. Starting with the 2+ years that I served in the jail, I heard nothing about this tattoo at all. Hell, nobody had any idea what it was. They probably just assumed that it was, I don't know what you would assume that is. But all of that would change immediately as soon as I got to prison for the second time. Now, getting to prison for the second time, I went right back to that place that I had once considered the sweetest place. If I'd have known this was this sweet, I'd have been here a long time ago. When I got to that same exact prison for the second time, this place was none of that at all. This place was completely out of control. Literally, as soon as we got off of the van to get to this prison, the guards were telling us how they had just come off of a 2 or 3 week lockdown for a gang war that had broken out on the rec yards and how a lot of people had gotten hurt during that. And all I was thinking hearing that was, damn, that's ironic to think about considering how the last time I was here, I said this place was a pretty sweet place to serve some time at. But as soon as you get to jail or prison, immediately upon getting wherever you're going, you go through what's called classification, where they basically process and book you into that facility. And during this classification process, they're taking pictures of you. They take a picture of your face, and they also take a picture of you butt ball naked, taking pictures of all of the tattoos and markings that you have on your body. And the major reason why they do this is because they want to see if you have any type of gang tattoos on you. Now, as I'm standing there butt ball naked and they're taking pictures of what few tattoos I had at this point, I'm not even concerned about this at all. Because again, I've had very few encounters or dealings with anything relating to this right here. But they do end up taking a picture of this, and then I immediately get called into this office to talk to this counselor, and she begins to ask me all about this tattoo. Asking me if I'm a gang member. I'm telling her absolutely not. What? Me? A gang? Do I look like a gang member? No, I'm not. She says, well, that tattoo you've got on your wrist says otherwise. That stands for white trash. And that tattoo, that symbol, that marking, that group, that organization, that gang has been recognized and classified here in Virginia State prisons. And I can't even explain to you like what I was feeling hearing what this woman was telling me. I mean, this is probably the craziest situation you could ever find yourself in. Hearing that you are going to be classified as a gang member and knowing and believing that you're not. You don't have any dealings at all with any type of gang activity. I tell this woman the story about the 2 boxes of peanut butter wafer bars. I explained to her the entire situation of how I ended up with this tattoo, telling her I absolutely regret this. No, I am not a gang member. I'm not. Now, as far as I can remember, I don't believe this woman actually classified me as such. However, she did make a little note inside of my file about this tattoo. And from there, that was all I heard about this for a good little while, a few years in fact. But it would be a few years later when I was at this place called Haynesville, where I was doing a lot of tattooing and was getting in a little bit of trouble. I wasn't getting in too much trouble at this place, and most of the trouble I was getting in there was for tattooing. But it was while I was at this prison, Haynesville, that I was called to the investigator's office this one day. And the crazy thing about this was I wasn't even surprised about this. Because during this time, I was on this hot list, meaning that I had to go take a urine test like once or twice a week. And they would do this at all sorts of various locations around the prison. Hell, they would try to call you to the library and surprise you with a test. I mean, they really went to some extremes to surprise people with these drug tests at this prison. And for those of you who might not know why I was on this hot list, the reason that I was getting all of these urine tests while at this prison was because I had gotten caught with some prescription ibuprofens that didn't belong to me. They were like 800 milligram ibuprofens that another guy was getting a prescription for, and I was buying them from him for like ramen noodle soups because I would get like monster crazy migraine. And those ibuprofens were a hell of a lot stronger and better for those migraines than any of the medicine that they were selling on commissary. But again, I get called to this investigator's office. I'm immediately thinking, no big deal. This is probably just another one of these surprise tests. They're just trying to do it at the investigator's office. At least that's what I was thinking. But that is not the case at all when I do get to this guy's office. In fact, when I walk in the door, it's 3 gang unit investigators sitting right there at a computer looking at my file. And the first thing they say to me when they see me is, you know, we just really had to meet you because you've got a Hispanic last name. And you're a gang member in a gang called White Trash. As soon as these guys start talking about this, I immediately start telling them everything that I've already told you, everything that I had already told this counselor at the other prison. Hey, look, I am not a gang member at all. I don't have any type of gang activity. I don't have no affiliations. I don't do nothing. In fact, all I do is I tattoo. If you want me to really put it out there, I just do tattoos. I don't get no commissary money. That's how I survive. I got no gang, nothing about me. But no matter what I would end up saying to these dudes, no matter how much I would try to plead my case with them, it was right here in this investigator's office where I would then become certified as a gang member. So that's something that I have never told you before now. Old Joe, the dummy that I have been, with so much regret, so much stupid stuff. You know, if you think about a tattoo that you could get, a prison tattoo that I got, that I absolutely regret. It is this tattoo right here, because it was as I was sitting in this investigator's office, and it was probably somewhere around 2012 when I was sitting in this office. It was right then and there that this dumbass tattoo ended up being the reason I would be then certified as a gang member. When that happened, my entire mindset, my entire time that I was serving, it changed. I mean, I was absolutely scared to death. Here I am, a guy that associates with everybody. I associate with the Spanish dudes, the black dudes, the white guys. I associate with everybody. These guys, because of this dumbass tattoo, nothing else at all. This gang doesn't even exist. If you look up white trash, you're not going to find anything on it because it does not exist. This moment would end up changing everything for me. Because now, when they come into the housing unit, which they would do every couple of months or maybe once a month, they would come in, strip everybody down, and take pictures doing the same thing that they do at classification, taking pictures of gang tattoos. That's what they're looking for. They would see my arm, see my files, see that I was classified and certified as an official gang member. They would then have to pull me out with the other gang member dudes, the Bloods, the Crips, the MS-13 dudes, the AB dudes. I'm getting pulled out with that same bunch of gang member dudes. And people are looking at me like, I don't ever see Joe running with no people. I won't ever see Joe with the ABs. I won't see him with the MS-13s or the Crips. Hey, what gang is Joe in? And this would draw a lot more attention to me than I wanted or needed, and definitely brought a few problems my way as well, where dudes would run up on me asking me, hey yo, what set you rep? What gang you with? And I would have to explain to these dudes, man, I got this dumbass tattoo on my wrist right here for some stuff that I ain't even a part of. And sometimes dudes would laugh about this situation, and other times they'd be ready to fight me for this. Getting certified definitely changed the whole momentum of my time. And in a situation where I already had to look over my shoulder, well, now I had to do so twice as much. I would end up getting through those final 3 years that I had since the time that I was certified. I would get released, and then once released, I would have to deal with probation. But now probation would never be the same again, because I wasn't just on intensive supervised probation or regular probation. I was always on intensive supervised probation, but I was not even on that anymore. Now I was on gang probation, having to deal with a gang task force probation officer treating me like I'm a damn gang member. And I'm going to tell you the worst situation that I had to deal with gang probation. And that was when I was living at my other place before I moved to where I now live at. Probation came to do a home visit. And usually when they come, they knock on your door. They just want to see if you're living there. That's it. It's a home visit. And I'm filming a video. I remember this. I'm filming a video. I'm sitting on the couch. The camera's right there in front of me. There's a knock on the door as I'm filming. And I'm thinking to myself, I already know it's probably probation doing a home visit. If anybody's knocking on my door, that's what it is. As soon as I open the door, there's a woman standing right there. She's got the police badge around on the necklace right here. And then I look over, and there's two guys standing right behind her in the full tactical uniforms with their guns, and it says gang unit across their chest. And as soon as I open the door and I see this woman and these two guys, I immediately step back, and the woman says to me, whoa, 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 where you going? Where you going? Why are you looking so nervous? What are you doing? I said to this woman, I said, nervous? I said, what are you showing up at my house like this for? She says, we're just doing a home visit. One of the guys tried to crack a joke with me. I wasn't trying to hear any of that, because the only thing that I'm thinking is, what are the neighbors thinking seeing these people come to my door? I had one last situation with this gang probation I want to share with y'all. And that was, I got called in to take pictures. I don't know. I shared this a few months ago. They called me in to do some updates on my pictures. I go in, and I'm thinking they just need to take an updated picture of my face because, hey, it's been almost 3 years since I've been released, and maybe they just want to keep my face on file, maybe to see if my face has changed. I don't know. But when I go in there, I'm sitting in the room, and there's a few guys who are in there with me, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe they got called in as well. I'm not even paying these dudes any mind at all. I mean, they're cool. I'm talking with them. It's a whole mix of different people in there. I go into the back, and it's the same damn situation. Probably the same woman with the police badge on her necklace, and instead of the task force full tactical gear dude standing there, there's a DOC investigator. In fact, this was one of the investigators who was sitting in that same room back in 2012 when I was first certified as a gang member. And what they say to me as soon as I walk in there is, take your shirt and your pants off. We don't care about your face. We want to see your other tattoos. I take my clothes off. I'm standing right back there. They're taking their pictures. And the guy, the DOC guy, he doesn't even remember me at all. He's looking at my file and he's asking me, what are you certified as? I mean, what gang are you? And I tell this guy the same story that I've been telling you and everyone else. And also him as well back in 2012 when he was sitting in this same room with these other investigators who would then certify me. I tell him the same damn story. This guy tells me then he's gonna do what he can do to try to get this certification removed from my jacket, from my file. Which, by the way, nothing was ever done with that. I mean, I'm still certified. The only way that I can get this off of me, the only way that I can get this title, this marking off of me, it's not even by covering this tattoo. See, you might have been thinking that the whole time, Joe, why didn't you just cover the dumb tattoo and be done with it? You know, that doesn't change anything at all. I would have been done that a long time ago if I knew that by covering this, that would get rid of it and it would be just off of me and it would be off of my file and off of my name. I would have been done this a long time ago. The only way that you can get that certified title off of you is you have to get a lawyer and go to court. You got to stand in front of a judge, and a judge has to be the one to make that determination whether you're going to remain certified or whether you're going to be uncertified. And you know, I've never heard of anyone doing that, let alone doing so and being successful with it. But I will tell you this. Eventually, I'm going to try this for myself because there's no way, no rhyme, no reason, no nothing why I should be considered a gang member. And it is definitely something I never wanted to share with you guys at all. I hope and pray, that you don't view me any differently. And if you do, I'm sorry. I was younger. I was dumber. I had just gotten jumped, beat up, and bloodied. And as weak as this is going to sound, I wasn't thinking and I was vulnerable. But hopefully at some point, someday, I'm going to get a lawyer and I'm going to attempt to get this thing up off of me. I'm going to get this title removed from me completely. I hope that's something I'm able to do. And, when I attempt this, I definitely want to share that with you. I'm going to end this crazy story on the best point that I think I could possibly make. And that is, when you serve time, probably more times than you think, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you gotta make a choice. And in most cases, there ain't gonna be no good choice. It's probably gonna be a lose-lose because that is a lot of what prison is like. When in those situations, you gotta try to make the lose-lose choice that's like the least of the lose-loses, the lesser of the two evils. But also, there's gonna be a lot of times where you're gonna find yourself in a situation that you're gonna look back on later and think to yourself, like, how did I even get here? And it could just be getting locked up in the first place. It could just be going to the hole, getting in a fight, getting jumped, getting all of your things stolen from you, or getting a stupid tattoo that you later regret. Lord knows I've got a lot of those. Many of females' names, one still on me, a lot that are covered up. And also this tattoo right here, that even if I covered it up, doesn't change the consequences that I've had to carry with me since getting this and also getting certified as a gang member because of it.